Hi everyone. At this point I'm kind of just stalling, so I might as well start the video because Spirit wants me to communicate what I've been going through the past week. I'm trying to think where to start. So I got an attunement just to kind of get the energies in order and everything balanced, and received I guess, is it intuition better? Downloads? I guess whatever term you want to use, I get the messages and they come through. This is just essentially cleaning the wires or the pipes. So I went through that, and anybody who's ever been through one of these has received a Reiki treatment or any other kind of energy works, knows that your life will all of a sudden shift, and if you're on the right path, then the doors will just open for you. And if you're on the wrong path, your life is going to fall apart so you can get on the right path. And for me, what happened is, I don't even know how to put this. I guess there were clogs in the pipe, and when they got cleared, everything just went to a whole new level. And it was really, really heart-wrenching. But looking back, I had gotten warnings. And I think the biggest warning was getting kicked off my social media and then having my internet kind of explode. I was like, okay, obviously I'm meant to do this alone, and whatever I'm going through, I'll have to come through it on my own. And then my spirit was very clear. It's, you need to learn this lesson now. And there were voices, I'm not really sure which voices they were. It was that what was going on was important, that what I was doing was important, and that that the lesson needed to be learned now. And some voices were helpful, and then others weren't so helpful, but it didn't change the fact that things were being set into motion. And then it just kind of all came to a head, and I ended up losing something like a couple objects that had a lot of emotional attachment. They were items from my first son when he was like an infant. I'd kept those in I guess since he was born. He was so little. So I kept those items, and they ended up getting thrown in the trash. And I was devastated. And the reason they had been thrown in the trash was because I had kept them not in a box, but in a bag, and the bag was unmarked. That hurt a lot. And I ended up looking at everything around me in this house, this really big house, and just thinking, if I have to part with something that's so dear to me, then why am I holding on to so much that means nothing to me? And I ended up filling 3 garbage bags full of junk at, well, obviously 2 a.m. And it kind of took the edge off of the pain, but it mostly brought a better sense of understanding. And the lesson was that, letting go, obviously. But I realized, even looking around this room, there's so much that I don't need. And you can probably look around your living space and know the same thing, that essentially these objects that we keep close to us are things that we don't need. We keep them because in our lifetime we gave them value. And at the end of the day, it kind of takes away from the mission and the journey. So there was a really big shift there, and a real big understanding that if I kept too much with me and looking at these things that held value and memory, that I'd be missing what was happening now. And I found that absolutely, that once I cleared some of these things that I guess I always knew in the back of my mind were there, I was able to see more of what was happening in the present moment. And something funny happened. That I sat with my son and my daughter, and I realized how big they were. And that was very nice. Because they were always my little babies. And I guess they always will be my little babies, but now they're growing up. So that's exciting. Yeah. That was one part of this past week. The other part was a prophetic dream that I had. Well, it wasn't, yeah, it was prophetic. It was prophetic, and it took place in a location that I'm becoming more understanding of, I guess. I'm more aware that, well, it's a big house, I guess, is the location. Like, not a mansion, just a really big house with many different rooms, many different types of rooms. And I didn't really have a realm of understanding for it growing up, when I used to dream about this house with many different rooms. But I'm starting to understand it more and more now, that this is actually a place. And the thing that I dreamed about, it was a little terrifying at first, because I kind of understood it as something else before I dreamed of it, like the image itself. But then when I woke up with the term Harbinger, and also a different word than I thought it actually was. So when I looked it up, it was like the one who comes in when there's a significant shift. So, and I had already been made aware during my session, my energy session, that there was something standing with me. And I got the sense that this was that thing to stand with me for a really big shift, and a little confused as to why it had to look the way it did. Except I I actually got drawn to, what is it called? Like I went on Netflix, and I hadn't been on Netflix for like a couple months, but we just got the internet back, so I was like, okay, might as well see what's on it since, you know, got nothing better to do. And this anime that I had watched when I was younger, oh, what's it called? I'm gonna butcher the name. Neon Evangelion. Anyways, I'll post a link about it in the description below. So yeah, I'm watching that anime, and the thing pops up on screen that I had seen in my dreams, and I'm like, holy crap, that's terrifying. And it's supposed to be a monster, but they call these monsters angels. So I was like, oh, okay. And from what I can remember, that dream or that show, I'm kind of binge watching it right now because I'm getting a sense there's more I need to know from this anime in particular to make sense of my dream. But from what I remember, these angels represent a huge shift in humanity, which is of no surprise to anyone who's been watching the YouTube about videos specifically like this one. I did not, for any of those who might be worried, who have seen the anime and maybe a little freaked out, I did not get the sense that this was bad. Like the shift was bad. It just, the dream itself, the thing that had shocked me about it or unnerved me about it, I say unnerved, but it was more the visual of the angel itself, because I was already told there was a being of white. It was more like a pillar of white light that stands with me in this room, actually, because it's my white room. And they couldn't see this being. They just knew it was like a pillar of light, and this being stood with me. But then I was given the image that led me to this anime that can bring synchronicity to the whole experience. So as I go through this anime, I'll see what comes up in this cycle that I'm learning right now, but it essentially relates to a big shift for humanity's consciousness. And we really, like, I don't think any of you needed me to tell you that specifically. It's pretty obvious when you watch the news, or you check your forums, or go on YouTube and look up what's happening. All of that information's coming in. So it's just, I just wanted to add my voice to let you know that there's more synchronicity for that specific event. And Spirit wanted me to add it too. So I didn't necessarily want to have to talk about an anime from, I think, when was this? The 80s? Or the 90s? I think the 90s. It's pretty old. But I'll put it in the comments below. And yeah, if you've been having dreams about stuff that relates to this, please write it down, because there's scientific studies done, and I'm pretty sure some of you watching know of these studies, that and I'll see if I can find it and put it in the link below as well. but the specific one I'm about to talk about, with crossword puzzles. Oh, it's Labor Day. I'll just close that. Okay. So what they did was they took a crossword puzzle, like a bunch of people, blind study, took a crossword puzzle that hadn't been solved yet and gave it to the participants. And the participants kind of did poorly getting these answers. And then they took a crossword puzzle from, I think, the New York Times, so something that had already been done and solved. And then they gave it to these participants, and then their scores were significantly better. So, and I think they did this over a period of, like, you know, a few of them, like unsolved and then solved, unsolved and then solved, and every time significantly better scores. And it was the conclusion that was reached is that there's something that we're connecting to, where we can gather this information, I guess, intuitively, and then using it in our everyday lives. So we're all plugged into the same thing. So if I'm having dreams like this, then chances are that you guys are having similar dreams, in a way that they can relate to you and essentially be about the same principle, the way your filter of experience can relate that to you. So yeah, that's my piece. The video is a bit longer than I intended, but c'est la vie. All right, and I look forward to making another one for you. And hopefully my internet doesn't crap out for a week to do it.